All right, let's dive right into one of the most pivotal moments in Fatimid history. Today, we're exploring exactly how the Ismaili Dawah expanded from its deep roots in Yemen all the way across to North Africa. If you're studying for your exams right now, understanding this specific chronological development is absolutely essential. Honestly, it's a masterclass in strategy, organization, and the birth of a major political transformation. This explainer is going to serve as your chronological roadmap. We'll be covering 6 main sections: origins in the Yemen, journey to the Kutama, building a new community, parallels to early Islam, the Aghlabid confrontation, and finally, the legacy of the movement. Let's jump right in. Section 1. Origins in the Yemen, foundation of the Dawah. So let's start at the very beginning by establishing our geographical and chronological anchor over in Yemen. Pinning down the year 268 of the Hijri calendar, that's 881 of the Common Era, is absolutely crucial. Why? Well, this marks the arrival of 2 key figures, Ibn Hashab and Ali ibn al-Fadl. Their joint effort didn't just plant a flag in Yemen, it made the region the firm training ground for future leaders. This is exactly where our central figure, Abu Abdallah, would spend a critical year preparing for his destiny, which ultimately set the stage for 7 transformational years later on. But before we go any further, to really grasp this history, we have to understand this specific term, the Dawah. The Dawah was the mission. It was the call to the faith. You can think of it as a highly sophisticated, deeply organized ideological movement that required exceptionally trained individuals to spread its teachings globally. So Yemen wasn't just a location on a map. It was the essential incubator for the entire Dawah. Let's look at how this builds up our central figure, Abu Abdullah. His intensive preparation was basically twofold. First, he underwent deep theological and intellectual study by attending these specialized teaching sessions known as majalis under Ibn Hashab. But he wasn't just sitting in a classroom taking notes. The second part of his training was strictly practical. He actually accompanied his mentor on real military expeditions. So he was learning how to be a scholar and a battlefield commander at the exact same time. Moving right along, Section 2, Journey to the Kutama, a strategic alliance. Armed with this profound knowledge and practical military tactics, Abu Abdallah set his sights on new ground. Now, you might be wondering, out of all the places in the world he could have gone, why North Africa? And why did he specifically choose to travel with the Kutama Berber tribesmen? Well, the initial connection actually happened during a pilgrimage to Makkah. The Kutama tribesmen were deeply impressed by Abu Abdallah's personality, his incredible eloquence, and his vast knowledge, so they invited him back to their homeland. What's really fascinating here is how Abu Abdallah strategically assessed their homeland before he ever committed to going. He questioned them heavily about their country to determine if it was suitable. He already knew that Shi'ism had a 13-5-year foothold there, thanks to previous da'is like Abu Sufyan and al-Hawani. When he realized that the mountainous region of each Khan offered fantastic defensible terrain, he accepted their invitation. It was the perfect fortified headquarters. Section 3. Building a new community, a state within a state. Having arrived in Kutama territory, Abu Abdallah went to work, meticulously engineering a brand new societal structure over the course of 7 years. And this brings us to an absolutely essential idea for your exams: the concept of a state within a state. It perfectly describes how he organized his followers. He didn't just gather a crowd for a rebellion. He built an independent, functioning society with its own laws, military structure, and moral authority long before they ever faced an established Aghlabid army on the battlefield. How did he achieve this? By keeping his initial teachings strictly confidential, aimed only at those who were truly ready to receive them. Then, he fundamentally reorganized the Kutama by dividing them into 7 disciplined military sections, each with its own dedicated commanders. He imposed strict moral codes, mandatory acts of worship, charity, and piety, coupled with severe punishment for any offenses. This profound sense of righteousness and strict justice created a very deliberate, stark contrast to the debauchery and moral laxity of the ruling Aghlabid emir and his court. Okay, on to Section 4. Parallels to early Islam, framing the narrative. As this highly disciplined community grew, the movement's chronicler, Al-Numan, drew some very deliberate historical comparisons that you definitely need to know. This brilliantly illustrates how Abu Abdallah actively likened his followers to the very first Muslims who supported Prophet Muhammad. He framed his entire mission as a direct mirror image of early Islamic history. This gave his followers a profound sense of historical and religious destiny. Just as the Prophet emigrated from Mecca to Medina, Abu Abdullah emigrated with his supporters from Ijan to a new base at Tazrit. But he didn't just move camps. He explicitly called Tazrit the Dar al-Hijra, which translates to the abode of emigration. This wasn't just a physical relocation. It was a deeply symbolic move, explicitly linking their current struggle to the holy migration of early Islamic history. Furthermore, his strategic use of vocabulary cemented this deep religious conviction. Abu Abdullah divided his world using those early Islamic terms. His supporters were the true believers, or mu'minun, and his opponents were disbelievers, or kafirun. Even the hypocrites, the munafiqun, were denounced but tolerated, exactly as they were in the city of the Prophet. This vocabulary totally legitimized the movement and bonded the community together like glue. Next up, Section 5. The Aghlabid Confrontation, the Inevitable Clash. Now, naturally, you cannot build a powerful armed state within a state without drawing the fury of the existing rulers, right? This new emerging authority completely bypassed the traditional tribal elders. Suddenly, loyalty wasn't to the clan anymore, it was to the Dawah and to its leader. This created massive friction. It threatened not just the Aghlabid rulers of Afriqiya, but it upended the entire prevalent tribal order among the Katama and other Berber tribes. And that tension finally exploded into open conflict. Despite severe early opposition, Abu Abdullah's disciplined ranks held incredibly strong. First, he survived direct clashes with rival Kutama clans. Then, a massive multi-city alliance was formed against him by the rulers of Mila, Satif, and Bilisma. But, long story short, their alliance fell apart. Through superior discipline and brilliant strategy, Abu Abdullah didn't just defeat them, he ultimately united the Kutama under a single authority, making him completely ready for the final boss, the Aghlabids. Alarmed by this seemingly unstoppable force, the Aghlabid emir Ibrahim bin Ahmad tried to play politics. He tried to bribe Abu Abdullah with worldly rewards, and when that failed, he flat-out threatened him. But Abu Abdullah boldly rejected the offer. In fact, he turned the threat completely around. He demanded the emir's submission to the Imam al-Mahdi to secure his own salvation, and boldly declared his readiness to fight until eventual victory. The lines were officially drawn. Which brings us to our final part. Section 6, Legacy of the Movement, the Dawn of a New Era. Let's bring all of these chronological threads together. When you look at the big picture for your exams, these are your key takeaways. From its early foundations in Yemen, which served as the perfect training ground, to the radical transformation of the Kutama into a military powerhouse, this movement laid the unbreakable bedrock for the rise of the Fatimid state. By replacing old tribal loyalties with strict ideological discipline, Abu Abdullah created a force that entirely dismantled the Aghlabids and ignited a massive political transformation across North Africa. As you review your notes today, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. How did a grassroots movement, meticulously built in the mountainous secrecy of North Africa, manage to completely outmaneuver and permanently alter the political map of an established, traditional empire? Understanding the sheer power of a disciplined state within a state is the key to mastering this fascinating chapter of history. Keep studying hard and best of luck on those exams.